Hi, it's 11:11 on Thursday, the 2nd of April 2020, and this is my third video in the Red Dragon Wave Spell. So today we are here on day 4 of the 13-day process of what the Great Mother is bringing us around our survival issues, how we need to align to new code coming in. So we're on Yellow Seed Day today and Yellow Self-Existing Seed. So day 4 of any 13-day process is about self-existing, and of course it changes according to which 13-day process we're in. So we're in the initiating one, we're in Red Dragon, and I'm in the process of writing a blog about all of this because it's unprecedented times at the moment. This is whole new code, whole new way of being. Each Mayan sign has a planet, and Yellow Seed as the 4th Mayan sign, the structure sign, because it's in the first wave spell. The planet is Jupiter, and Jupiter is a huge planet. At the moment it's in Capricorn, and it will be joining other major planets in Aquarius, but at the moment it's still in Capricorn, and we've got a major event coming up in 3 days' time where we've got a Jupiter and Pluto conjunction. So things are coming to a head. I'm not going to talk about that specifically today. What I'm going to talk about today is what I connected to intuitively this morning. And the more that we get clear of our past story and focus on new information coming in and being able to embody it, the more we can create an amazing shift in our life and start to write new stories. So today is about how self-existing we are, our ability to be in our center, our ability to be the true starseed that we are and remember who we really are. This is the key. So despite everything that's going on with other people and on the planet, knowing that we are resourced from within, and the more that we get clear of our entanglements, of our codependency, and this is key for this age of Aquarius, this Saturn in Aquarius energy, the more that we stand on our own 2 feet and that we know that yes, we are all interdependent and that we're not codependent. We need to be creating structures on an individual basis now. This is about individuation of the human being, each human being who is really connecting to their gift now. So Jupiter in Capricorn is all about the patriarchy, all the things that are happening at the moment, the structure that we have on the planet around how we live and how certain patriarchal, very, very old patterns have created this way of being. And often we can believe that that is the way, that that is the definitive way, but it's just a way. And the more that each individual starts to recognize this, understands how structures work in a human being sense on the planet, and that they are created by human beings. A lot of them have been around for thousands of years, and the old pattern that ended with the Mayan cycle was on 2012, which was the end of 5,500 year cycle. So we entered a new one back then. This is why things are starting to shift. So it is really key to become a person who does their due diligence and their own research and starts to explore what the structure is on planet Earth, what the structure is in our personal culture, what the structure is in our personal kingdom, United Kingdom where I live, what our structure is in our own county, because each county in the UK has a very different pattern, has a different code, has a different way of doing things. So even though we're all part of the same kingdom, each place has a very different energy and a very different pattern. In terms of universal patterning, the macro, again, in terms of being an empowered individual, it's really good to get a power team around this of people who share information about the current astrology. And so you don't actually have to know everything yourself. You can connect to other people and engage with them and find the ones that match your pattern and that speak truth subjectively or objectively in a way that works for you. Because knowing that each of us has a pattern and has a code means we're attracted to other people who share our past history. And again, this is so key to mastery. Knowing what our history is, knowing what our patterns are, knowing what our predispositions are, what our presuppositions are. So we have been crafted. So we have a seed, we have a way that we are going to grow. And again, working with the macro, working with the micro. And in alchemical terms, in magical terms, this is as above, so below. So we have an individual map of the world based on our life experience and based on everybody who's come before in our DNA. The old wise adage, know thyself, this is key for the alchemist. This is key for the individual who is becoming very aware of what their personal stardust pattern is, what their astrology is, what their cosmology is, as and when they feel ready to remember that we came here for a great adventure at this time, massive transformation. So knowing this information is really, really empowering, essential for the adventurer who is now releasing their star seed potentiality. So in terms of the macro, we have an environment wherever we are. We have an outside environment, albeit some of it's off limits at the moment, some of it's limited because of the restrictions that are in place. So just noticing that is key, and how it makes us feel is really key as well. We are plants. We are living beings. We are very much influenced by our environment. And again, in terms of psychology, we come into the world and we are influenced by our environment. So even identical twins will be having a different experience because they have things happen to them in their environment in a different way with different people at different times. So nothing is ever identical for each individual. So with some plants, they will thrive given an initiation by fire. So we see forest fires are essential on some level to clear out the old undergrowth and allow new seeds to germinate. And so again, as an individual human being, we can really connect to what type of seed are we? How do we initiate into new life at this time of year, new beginnings? So it could be that we're crushed by something that initiates new growth. It could be that we have to be in a fridge, for example. Some seed needs to go in a fridge and be really cool in order to germinate. Some is initiated by fire. Some is initiated by being eaten and shat out. So again, getting to know our own personal initiation code can be very enlightening to know how we do this. Do we react under pressure? Do we need something to really get us going? Are we dependent on something happening from the outside? Just like with an egg, a human egg gets penetrated by a sperm in order to initiate life. Again, it's just seeing that we are all in a process on a cellular level. So the macro on the outside, often we can't control this. So in the UK, for example, we have a very different pattern to in Greece. We have very changeable weather. We don't know from year to year what's going to happen with the weather. And so this really does impact on our environment a great deal. And so each year, are we going to get a summer? Are we not going to get a summer? How that makes us feel. And over time, how that influences us. Living in the north of the UK is very different to living in the south. And so where I am, for example, now, I live most of my life in the north. I'm now in the southwest and the weather is a lot warmer. And so I have a very different experience. The sun is essential for human beings in terms of how it affects our hormones. And so again, this is really key to notice. If we spend long periods in grey skies and we don't get sunshine, this can make us feel very depressed. So again, there's some real essentials that we need to pay attention to, and making a conscious choice to shift our environment to maximize our health and well-being is key. If we live in a very damp area, we've got damp conditions in our home, it's not good for us, and we need to make a change on that. In terms of being aware of the weather and getting enough water into our environment as well, all of this is about awareness of what creates health. Anything that is toxic to a human being is going to make an impact on us. And in a lot of ways, we are guinea pigs. We are experiencing things that haven't been trialed on human beings for a long time. So we're literally doing the process. So things like technology, anything to do with radio waves, check out the history on that. Check out the key times when we had new things coming in with regards to radio waves on the planet, and also health issues at that time. So again, doing the due diligence, seeing what happened on the macro and how it affects human beings, each individual person. Some things we cannot change, and so to really be aware of that. Again, we're experiencing that a lot at the moment. There's certain rules in place, and noticing how they've come about is really key, because again, for each one of us, this will be in our personal history, in our personal makeup, as a child, how we experienced hierarchies, how we experienced being controlled, being disciplined. All of this is really key to know on the macro, because with the macro, we can have influence on that as individuals. On the micro, we can have huge influence on ourselves. We can create change for ourselves. We are here to release coping mechanisms from the past by understanding what created them, why we are who we are, and how our psychology is influenced and affected. This is really essential for the person who's wanting to be empowered, understanding what has shaped us generally on the macro, but even more important on the micro, on our own personal journey. Without this knowledge, without this awareness, then how can we really shape ourselves? How can we really understand ourselves? How can we understand what coping mechanisms we've created, and how can we then start to let them go if they're unhealthy for us? So just referring back to my notes there. And so this is really key. So using the analogy of being a seed, of being a flower, and I live in the Libra part of the zodiac, and in moon gardening, we use astrology to really connect and work consciously on what each moon sign represents. So we're in moon in Cancer today, and that is a really lovely sign, especially as it's waxing. So it's great to be planting things today, planting seeds. In terms of Libra, coming to the full moon in Libra, and it's going to be a super moon, and I will be doing a webinar on that day as well, because it's a very significant day. So please get in touch with me if you'd like to know more. Check out my website, flowwithjo.com, and check me out on Facebook, Flow with Jo, as well. So at the moment, we are in Aries Sun, initiation of the spring equinox, and all fire signs in the moon are about weeding. So whenever we have a moon in Aries, it's great to be weeding, to be clearing in the garden, to be using fire. I like to use fire to burn things, and then once you burn the weeds, you transform them into something that can be used, especially with fruit trees, to allow new growth. In terms of Libra, Libra moon is all about flowers. And when we come to the autumn equinox, we go into the dark half of the year. So we see what we've been doing on the solar wheel from the spring equinox to the autumn equinox. And then we go within and start to work on the inside. So again, the more that we can align with these natural cycles, this is what the natural people, the indigenous people across Europe used to do. And of course, we have many indigenous groups still today across the world who are still connected to their old patterns and their old rituals, and being in balance with nature, being balanced with the earth, and using cosmology, using ancient wisdom to work with these deeper awareness that we've been doing for thousands of years. A lot of the modern day cycles have gone out of alignment with this and have overridden wisdom. And this is why human beings have become ill and disconnected from their health patterns, their seed patterns. So by the time we reach Libra, we are then ready to really work on being consciously aware of our journey over that 6-month period and what we have experienced out on the land. And as we work for 6 months within, and I do groups every year to do this, specifically with women, then we work on what came up for us over the 6-month period, so we can become more consciously aware of what our patterns are, more consciously aware of how to heal them, and to let go of old environments and toxic structuring that does not allow us to survive or thrive. Again, to go back to the weed analogy, weeds are amazing modelers. They have learned what it takes to survive and to thrive. So again, what we often see as weeds are simply plants that maybe we haven't planted, or that maybe they self-seeded, or usually really, really strong plants in our environment that thrive there. And so we can learn a lot from these plants. So at the Libra time of year, we are really working with the shadow. We're working with old story that has wounded us, old ways of being that are now shifting and changing within each one of us. And so at this time of Aries Sun to full moon in Libra, this time is all about who am I and how do I let go even more of what needs to heal? How do I come into balance with my shadow? This is the time that we're at on planet Earth, healing the shadow so we can really let go of doing things that no longer serve us as human beings. So in terms of knowing your own personal pattern, that is key. Knowing the pattern that's going on the planet is also key, and all of these are a work in progress. You know, this takes time, this takes remembering, this takes clearing. How to become a master, Jupiter, and how to really work with this time of expansion into mastery of self. That is the key focus. So in terms of what sets your heart on fire right now, that's what's wanting to expand and becoming very aware of what has stopped that in the past environmentally. So if, for example, you've been in a family dynamic where you have not felt able to thrive, maybe at times really struggled to survive because people around you have been telling you that you need to change and be like them. If you're watching this video, you will hold very different energy to most of your birth tribe and may have been struggling with that for many years. Being told you're the black sheep, being told you don't fit, you have to change, all of that sort of energy. So even though intellectually you might know that, if you're still encountering a lot of that energy, then this is where healing is required and rewiring of the amygdala. We can control our environment to a certain extent. What we will be being shown right now is, because we're being very limited in where we can go, what's going on in the environment that you're in, what needs to heal around that, what are the buttons that are being pushed for you right now, because always, 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 this is about our childhood. Often people speak of this is a past life thing, and I offer you that everything that we need to access is done right here, right now. We hold all the code of all our past lives, of all our family DNA right now. We're repeating the patterns. The more that you learn about this and understand this, you will see how this is true. And so all we ever have to work on is the here and now and what's coming up now. And this will always lead us back, following the cosmic cookie trail, back to the original threats. Using emotional freedom technique in a specific way helps you follow this cookie trail and get clear, so you're no longer doing that story. So I offer you everything that's happening now is the way through to being emotionally free and emotionally clear, and being able to start to open your star seed more and more and create an environment where we can do that, where we can thrive. These new codes are only just coming in, okay? So it's time to be patient and take the small steps and keep taking them, to have the courage to create, no matter what is going on around us. It's time to master ourselves, our personality, and use tools to shape it. Where Jupiter is in our chart is really key. So again, knowing this is essential for the next level of shaping our destiny. We're all connected on a cellular level in some way. Everybody on the planet who's here today is connected in some way. In our own personal birth family, we're connected on a cellular level. And so it's remembering that as we change, everything has to change. So we're all in a system together, we're all parts of the game plan together, and everybody is helping each other to go through their own personal process. The only thing that we have to focus on to create this change is ourselves initially. So once we start to focus on these frameworks, then we really start to thrive. Trusting this process is key as well. Each day it's important to set an intention around what we want to create. I'm starting to personally create some documents and ebooks that will simplify this process so that you can use them every day in a very proactive, practical, powerful way, and make this accessible so that each person can be the warrior of the heart, who is healing their heart, who is letting go of their story, who is becoming self-existing and releasing their star seed more and more, so we can create the life that we want by being the change. All of this process is about embodiment. It is known as fruits of their labours in terms of ancient biblical text. So instead of listening to people's words and promises, know them by the fruit of their labours. Know them by their actions, by how they live, by what they do. And this is really key information now. Seeing over time how people interact and knowing and being wise about this If a person is not doing their own personal healing process, it is impossible for them to change. If a person has not done any personal healing and is telling you that they will change and yet not taking any action, then how can that be true? This is the key to set us free. Often we will stay in relationship way beyond the time that is good for us because of belief systems that we live in hope, we love the person, we can see who they are beyond all of this behaviour. Often we will stay in narcissistic abuse because it's what we know. It's our comfort zone and we don't know how to get clear of it. This is often shown as cognitive dissonance. This is often shown as what is known as Stockholm syndrome. And again, this is a huge planetary pattern at the moment. How to enable the narcissist, how to stay in relationship with a narcissist, how to fear. Often this fear is very real for people, and the level of reaction from the narcissist when we are wanting to become free does fill us full of fear. And so it's essential to get support. It's essential to surround ourselves with people who are going through this process in order to have support and remember what we are moving away from and keep moving away from it. Moving away from it on the inside is key, because as we heal this old abusive pattern, then we become more resilient, we become more aware, and we become more empowered. And magically, this changes our code on every level. And magically, we start to connect to new things and new people. And always, this will change over time as we change. The process is within. The process is about healing and rewiring and knowing and remembering that we are always supported in this process. If you'd like to know more about any of these processes, please do get in touch with me. I will be posting resources on my webpage, flowwithjo.com. I have lots of ways that you can co-create with me, including groups. So please get in touch and let's co-create together at this amazing time of coming into self-existence. Lots of love. See you soon.